For this week's tutorial, I have a page that was submitted to me from Marco Cabrera. I feel like the artwork in general is very strong. You can see all the figures are well drawn, the hands are good, the poses are fluid, the proportions work. So really, it's most of the way there, and I think what Marco has working here is really the stuff that's the most difficult to learn, and really it's just a matter of getting the final polish that he needs to make his work look professional. So I want to go ahead and just use panel one, just up in the left corner here, and use that as my example to illustrate how I would go about taking pencils that are at this level and giving them a nice professional polish. I'm going to make this a little less opaque so it's easier to see what I'm doing. And I'm on a layer just above it. I'm using a 2H real pencil from Friendon. I generally just use his 2H pencil brush. And when I draw on paper, I use nothing but a 2H, so this really works well for me. With this picture, I feel like the line weights are really not where they need to be, and I'm going to start with that because it's a great way to just to kind of get your feet underneath you. Also, I'm really not getting much of a sense of where the light is coming from. I can see it on the buildings here, but the figures aren't really reflecting it. So I'm going to imagine that my light source is coming from here, so it would work with the buildings in the background. All I'm doing here is just going ahead and putting in line weights. And for line weights, when I know that my light is actually touching a surface, I'll go very light with my line. And when a surface is away from the light, I'll go much heavier. Inside curves, I'll go heavier. I always make sure if I have a connection like that, I'll make sure to define it because that's really how I'm defining my form. And if I turn away from the light underside, I'll make it a little thicker. If I turn towards the light, it'll go thinner. And that's really all there is to it. It's a bit of an inking technique. I'm very fortunate right now. I'm working with a rich friend, and I could get away with putting none of this in, and he really knows what he's doing. He doesn't need the help. But especially starting out, and really the way the business is going nowadays, a lot of pencilers are actually now inking themselves. So it's a very good thing to learn how to make your work look finished and professional when it leaves your hands rather than when it leaves the next person's hands, because you really just don't have that level of control. So this is all really just stage one, just getting my figure drawn in very cleanly. And I'm really not going to change any of the art, and I don't feel like it needs changing. So it's just a matter of I'm treating this actually as if I was an inker almost. I mean, this is I'm inking with pencil essentially. And you can see how as I go down here, I'm going to go thicker. Then I'm going to come up, it'll be thinner, down again because it's further, it's away from the light, pointing downward away from the light. It goes thicker, thinner. I'm not going to go ahead and draw every detail onto the pants and everything just because I want to get across as much as I can. And when I'm working in Manga Studio, I keep my screen zoomed for my own Cintiq here. I don't know what kind of Cintiq I've got, but I've got it set to 15.8, which is a kind of an arbitrary number. And it really doesn't matter what your number is. What matters though is if you can set an actual 11 by 17 comic board up to your screen, and what you're drawing on the screen is the same size as what you'd be drawing on paper, you're in good shape. Any further away and you're not going to get the same detail. Any closer and you're going to actually you'll just be there forever, which I have done. I really learned that one the hard way. Just as an aside here, now I'm going to go into the background a little bit. And what Marco has here is pretty good, but I just want to clean it up a little bit and especially concentrate on this garbage can, which to me really doesn't look like much of a garbage can. It looks a little odd. So I'm going to round out the lid. I don't think I've ever seen a garbage can with a lid shaped like that, like a hexagon. And I could be wrong, but also I want to go thicker with this line here because this is away from the light, and then this is actually going to be pointing up toward the light. This is a lip, which you would see on a can. It wouldn't just be a hard metal uh, piece that would cut you if you touched it. And then for the handle, I want to give it more of an accurate finish shape. And now he's got some paper sticking out here, so let's do that. Just want to break it up just a little bit more, make it a little more interesting. Generally speaking, what's going on here is good, but I can always take it a little further. Here's another lip for the actual can itself. And now he's got the can pretty bent up and broken, which I think is great. But line weight certainly helps with that. And then where I think it really falls apart is the lighting. So let me just finish up the rest of the detail just to define the shape of the can, and then we'll get into that. So now, since I know I've got my lighting coming from here, like I showed earlier, uh, that means that this side of the can over here is going to be dark, and this side over here is going to be light. And so let's just start just blocking in some shadow. Cast shadow from the paper. I'll do the same thing over here. And so now where I feel like I can really help with this can is I know it's a cylinder. So here's a very simple cylinder, poorly drawn. And the lighting that we have is basically like this. But because it's a can that has a corrugated side, I'm going to go thick here. Still pretty thick. And then just a little thinner. And then a little thinner. And then I can even start to break it up. And you can see how that really looks much more like a can. So I want to really keep it consistent. And what I see going on here is a thick line here, something thick here, but it's just not consistent. So how we can really improve that is just being more consistent with it. And I'm going in and breaking it up just a little bit here, breaking up some of the light because I just wanted to look pretty beat up. But, you know, really it's following the form and following the same basic rule that I use with this is all that really matters. So just a little thinner. And here you can see I'm just really breaking up the line and making it very thin and open. Now I'm going to drop a shadow from this can just to be consistent with the lighting I did on the paper just up there. I think it's possible as you go along to get pretty fancy with your light sources and have multiple light sources all over the place. And there's a lot of interesting things you can do that way. But certainly, as you are starting out, I think that's something to avoid. Now, what I'm doing at the top of the can here is I'm basically creating a divot. So a technique that I really like to use and that I'm using here on the top of the can is creating little dents and dings and things. And that's very easy to do. I'm going to do it on this shape here. I can just draw a shape right here, another shape here, and if I switch to my eraser quickly, I can cut into what I drew underneath, and you can see it gives it the illusion of being a shadow. And that's really all there is to it. It's pretty simple. If I draw something out here, I can draw the underside of it kind of here and get some pretty cool effects. But really, it all comes down to knowing where my shadow is and being consistent. Like if I was to draw, imagining that it had a paint maybe over the whole thing that's chipped off at the bottom. I want to make sure to consistently draw, and it's the same as what I'm doing on the clothing here. I'm drawing thicker lines on underside curves away from the light. So I'm imagining that this is a raised surface and this is beneath it. And it really only takes a few line weights to really give that impression. All right, so I'm going to finish up this can quickly. And just a little bit of detailing on the bottom, some of the other objects just to finish this off. And that basically has it covered. All right, so now I'm going to move into the figure here. Let me erase some of the line that I don't need there. And I know again that I've got my lighting coming from the same place, so I know I want this side of the body to be shadowed. So in really simple terms, this is all it is. I'm just shadowing away from the light. Now, I'm really not referencing my folds, but I'd certainly recommend if you're not comfortable with folds in clothing, it's something you should do. I really think you're better off in the long run to learn from the reference and learn how to do it on your own because uh, for any kind of monthly comic production, referencing every single fold on every figure is just not practical. And this is my opinion, but I really don't think comics are as appealing when they just look like they're a bunch of photographs. I think your own artistic interpretation is what makes it your world. And if you can make that appealing, you're allowing somebody into the world of your mind, which sounds a little pretentious maybe, but that's a big part of the appeal of comics for me is being able to experience somebody's vision of a world as opposed to just a collection of somebody's reference photos. And here is so tempting for me to zoom in so I can get a little bit more detail, and it can be easier for me to figure out the detail on what I am getting in there. But uh, when I'm drawing on paper, I don't have that advantage, and pages are only really printed so long, large in an actual comic, and if you get too much detail, it actually won't read at all, and it'll start to look like all that detail you put in is just a mess, and you really didn't put that much work into it.